Hey, all, and welcome to this week's episode of the Mike Muldoon podcast. Thank you for joining me. Every week I encourage you to silence the inner and external voices or, circumstances holding you back and take action in living the life you desire. Because after all, life is meant to be lived, just not merely existed in. Sorry if I'm talking a little bit lower right now. I'm actually recording in the beautiful south of England right now along the Jurassic Coast. I actually saw dinosaur footprints today. Crazy enough, it was pretty wild. So if I'm talking a little bit lower, it's because we're in a rental house and got other people around me. I had to find the one room I could be in while everybody's asleep. So that's where I'm coming to right now. So hopefully, still hear me pretty clearly. It's wild because what I wanted to talk to you today, actually, since I began my travels to come here, including a stopover in New York City for a few days, this episode has kind of been brewing in my mind. And today's like another episode where I get personal about my own challenges, the things I sort of had to push through to, keep living a life that I desire. And, even when taking this trip, which has been amazing, there are things that I sort of had to push through. So today I want to talk a little bit about the only way to really live life to the fullest is this willingness to pass through the uncomfortable moments. Look, we all go through uncomfortable moments, and sometimes they're warranted. Sometimes they're even an internal warning system. They're an alarm that whatever you're in it's not so good. This is very uncomfortable. It might be like, hey, this is the time to go, right? But sometimes the uncomfortableness is a roadblock to getting us to something that's better or more fulfilling place. And that roadblock is usually fear. Right? That roadblock, that uncomfortableness is usually fear. And it's these moments that moving through these uncomfortable moments that you're having, is great for personal growth and development. After all, when you face discomfort, you build more emotional resilience, more mental strength. When we confront uncomfortable feelings or circumstances, we adapt, cope, we recover from the stress of it. It helps us overcome the adversity that we face. It helps us to push outside our comfort zones and exposes us to, new experiences, new ideas, and it gives us a better understanding of ourselves and the world around us, right? And that's all the good stuff. And that's fantastic. And that's great for personal growth. But like I said, today I want to talk a little bit about me. So I do a lot of things. I try to live the best life I can, but there are things that are very still uncomfortable for me. For some reason, many, many moons when I was younger, I suffered from panic attacks. And there were things that I didn't push through. There were things that I quit on because I wouldn't face the fear of them. Going back, my mother took me to a basketball camp and I was very young and I had a panic attack there and I stopped playing basketball. Who knows? Maybe I would have been a pretty decent basketball player. After all, I'm 6'3". But anyway, I quit on that. And as a child, there was a lot of things I passed on I didn't do because of the fear of, the what if. So anyway, these panic attacks helped me out. As I grew up, as I got older, I learned to handle things better. And of course, I've gone on to be pretty decent about living a life that's kind of without too many constraints. But I will tell you that in my 30s, I got hit with another panic attack flying back from a trip from Miami, and I've never really recovered 100% from that, which basically means nowadays any sort of traveling is uncomfortable for me. Here's the interesting thing. The actual flying in a plane isn't uncomfortable for me. The going to the airport, the being dropped off, the going through security, the loading on the plane, the strapping into the plane, them closing the door, the taxiing runway, the takeoff, that is all uncomfortable to me, extremely to the point that sometimes I'm thinking, why am I even doing this? But I know that on the other side of it, I'll be better for it. I know getting on those planes, flying up to New York City, if I didn't do that, I would have missed out on great fun I had up there. Again, being back in the city where Emily and I used to live, my wife, before we had kids, going back to where we had gotten married, this time showing the kids where we were married in Central Park, taking them around the city, just giving them all sorts of experiences. And then, of course, having this great dinner with family and friends that night and catching up with people I hadn't seen for years. That was amazing. But I had to pass through those uncomfortable moments of the plane, right, and all that stuff to get there. And then it was the same thing, flying back over here to England. Now, for those who don't know me, I lived in England. I lived there for 3 years at some point. Back from 2016 to 2019, my wife had moved here. My wife and I had moved here. And we lived here for 3 years, and it was great, and we loved it. We ended up moving back to the U.S., but, we like to think of ourselves as, having two homes. But anyway, it was another thing, like getting on like a 7.5-hour flight, flying over here, a lot of discomfort, a lot of uncomfortableness, a lot of having to push through it. And then even when I got here, there's a lot of little remoteness. I'm not a big fan of remote places. So again, driving here, going to places that seemed a little remote, a little bit out of nowhere, driving through like, where am I? Those are things I'm not usually super comfortable with. Even, when we got here, like taking our kids to see dinosaur footprints. It's like, all right, well, it looks like it's just a drive over there. Well, it's not. You got to get out of your car. You got to walk a mile into the middle of nowhere. And then you got to make a right-hand turn. You got to walk like 1.5 miles into the middle of nowhere. And for me, those things can be very uncomfortable. Like if I don't know kind of what I'm doing. And I guess what I'm saying here is if I would have let any of that uncomfortableness persuade me from not doing it, just saying, let's just not do this. Let's not do this. I wouldn't have been able to experience these really cool things. Like I said, I saw dinosaur footprints. It's wild. These prints are hundreds of millions of years old. I don't know, hundreds of millions of years. I think it's like 140 million years old or something like that. These prints were found in a quarry. There was another exciting thing where we went to this place called Durdle Door. Durdle Door is amazing. It's this beautiful place, but it's off a cliff. Another kind of like driving out there in the middle of nowhere. And then to get to the beach, you got to kind of journey down the side of this mountain, all the way down below, all the way down to the beach. Again, things like that would have been, and still at times a little uncomfortable for me. But I go ahead, I do it. I have these beautiful, beautiful experiences, and I loved it. Again, I'm sharing a little bit about me because if at any point I let any of those uncomfortable situations suddenly just be, you know what, let's not go there. We don't have to go to that place. We don't have to see that because I let the fear get in the way, the uncomfortableness from the fear get in the way, then I wouldn't have experienced these amazing, these beautiful things or beautiful moments that I've had over the last week. And that's why I keep saying sometimes in order to live and to get amazing experiences, we have to have the willingness to pass through the uncomfortable. Now, for some people, maybe it's not travel. This happens in relationships. Right? Being able to navigate uncomfortable moments is healthy in relationships. In difficult situations, having, good communication, empathy, and understanding are really crucial. Right? And if you're willing to face the discomfort that might come from addressing issues that you might have with somebody, right? Or, your inability to want to resolve conflicts, then you're never going to strengthen those connections with others. And if you're going to avoid these uncomfortable conversations or situations that you may, you don't want to have because, again, the fear, the uncomfortableness, it could lead to, all sorts of misunderstandings, resentments, and damage to your relationships. Think about it this way. You're at work and you believe you deserve a raise, but you're not asking because you feel too uncomfortable. But yet this could lead to resentment because you're not getting the raise, but you haven't asked. Same thing with a promotion. Maybe you want that promotion, but you're too uncomfortable to have that conversation with your boss. So now all of a sudden, it might lead to resentment or just hurt or just, sadness because you feel like, well, I really should have that job, but you're too scared to push through the uncomfortable moment to have that tough conversation. Or maybe it's just loving or liking someone from afar, but you have this unwillingness to share your feelings. And maybe what that leads is just to missed opportunity, a missed love. You don't know. But again, in order to live life to the fullest, we have to pass through that fear, that uncomfortable moment to get there. And what you need to understand, if you're somebody who deals with this stuff, you will be better for it because the experiences on the other side of it are going to be better for you. So that's really what I got for you today. Again, sorry if this is a little low for you all, trying to keep it down, not trying to keep everybody awake in the house here. But it's really important to understand that, look, no matter what uncomfortable moments you are having, life is about living. And a lot of times, the only way to get there is to pass through these uncomfortable moments. Because if you have this willingness to sit through those moments, to face that fear or even uncertainty of how that situation, conversation, that travel, whatever might turn out, just know in the end, you're going to be better for it. All right, all. That's all I got for you this evening. Hope, again, I appreciate everybody who's staying with me weekly. It's been a great trip. I know some of you have kind of reached out to me about it. I've been posting a little bit more than I normally do, trying to share some of my journey with everybody. Actually, this is a beautiful view. We're actually up on a hill and I'm overlooking a valley, and it's wild. It's a beautiful, beautiful view. And the sea, not an ocean, but the sea is actually to the right of me down there. And it's beautiful to see that. So, it's just an experience that I think everybody should have. Everybody should have an opportunity to see something like this. So listen, as always, you can always find me at MikeMuldoonLC.com. Feel free to book in a consultation. My schedule's opened up a little bit more. So if you need some coaching, you need to talk, anything like that, just reach out. Book a session with me. It doesn't cost anything in the beginning anyway. You know what? If you know somebody who might need some coaching, tell them to just reach out. Let's go. Let's have a chat here. Again, life's about living. We got to figure out ways, what's holding us back, what moves us forward. You can always check me out on my Instagram, Mike Muldoon LC. Doing a little bit better with that, but I don't get all that stuff. But anyway, look, as always, thanks for being here. Much appreciated for following. And as always, going into this weekend, I got nothing but love for you.